Thank you. And It's not that with Nancy was sitting there, but this was not that
one of those things. Yeah. Hey, actually, but we've never. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Nice to meet you. For a while there, I was able to keep track.
I go to work, and then I go home.
So you live in Florida, or a fan of common sense?
Or I do this.
And I oh, that's okay. I saw that. Yes.
A couple hours schedule one. A couple hours 12
yes.
hours.
Hey, Beth, how are you? I'm here too. I didn't recognize you. You're like, I love all your stuff. Thank you. So I got one.
You make your own citizens.
Well, yeah. It was more than I got one. Yes. Same stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
I respect that you're focused.
Okay. What do you mean?
This focus is because that sounds more like
yeah.
You'll let me explain this. More like the special yeah, I mean,
I knew you mean
there's hello. Possibly.
Good afternoon, everyone. If everyone could take a seat, we could get started on this candidate form. We have all of our candidates here, so we're going to get started. They've drawn numbers to see who speaks first, second, and Paul McPherson is the lucky one that's going to go first. These candidates are all going to answer one question, the same question, and that question is, Indiana's 4th district includes fast-growing suburbs, small towns, and rural communities that often feel like they have very different needs. If you are elected, what is the one specific, measurable action you will take in your first year to improve quality of life across the entire district? And how will you show constituents that the action is working? Now remember that number 1. Kidding. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm Linda Lassiter. I'm the chair of the Hendricks County Democratic Party. And so let's go ahead and get started with Paul McPherson. was from Ohio originally, but he's a transplant to us and an engineer, a Purdue engineer, yeah? So here, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to do a long bio for anybody. Here you go.
All right, yeah. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for hosting this. My name is Paul McPherson. So I did grow up in Ohio on a 210-acre cattle and crop farm. I went to Berea College in Berea, Kentucky for my undergraduate, but then I came to Purdue University for my graduate degree. I then went on to work at Caterpillar for a short time. Then I got back into higher education. I've been teaching higher education ever since. I've been back at Purdue now for 12 years. And just most recently, I took on the role of the director of a makerspace at Purdue, 32,000 square foot with 140 employees. So manage a multi-million-dollar budget for the facility, work with students, work with staff, work with people across disciplines, across ages. But to answer the question, I think to help the whole district, my first initiative would be looking at more money for block grants, especially for growing communities, because that's going to help with infrastructure, right? And so I think that there's a variety of issues that we all of the candidates up here agree on, but I think to help both urban areas, rural areas, developing areas, block grants are super important, making sure that the funding from the federal level is trickling down and being spent appropriately in the communities to ensure that the infrastructure is there, whether it's upgrading the grids, upgrading sewer systems, upgrading various facilities, whether it's local community centers or healthcare facilities, making sure that block grants are made available. And how would I ensure that that is being done right? Well, I think it's a congressman's job to come back into the community that's elected them, right? And work with local elected officials and work with the community to ensure that their needs are being met and that these grants are available, and ensuring that people know the process to apply and qualify for those funds. So I think that's, yeah. Any questions?
Yeah.
Do you want me to take questions?
Go ahead, you can take questions for 10 minutes until you reach your 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you say you're in favor of block grants, how do you feel about block granting Medicaid?
Well, so I believe, I guess I'll jump into the healthcare issue. So it's something that I've talked a lot about on the trail. So in 2024, U.S. tax dollars spent $2 trillion on Medicaid, Medicare, and yet we still have a broken healthcare system. And so I'm a firm believer that we need to look at how that money is actually being spent, because that's over $40 billion per state. And we need that money to be spent better for the taxpayer, right? If our taxes are being spent $40 billion per state, if you broke it out equally, right? Why do we still have a broken healthcare system? So I'm not necessarily in favor of the block grants per se being used for healthcare, but maybe making sure that the resources are there for like community action organizations, right? Where they can supply transportation to and from medical facilities for people, right? That may be more of a block grant type issue, not necessarily the funding of the actual health care. Does that answer the question? So I'm a firm believer that when it comes to the Medicaid, Medicare issue, there's no reason why we can't have, I hate to say Medicaid, Medicare for all. And I say that because the immediate thought is, how do we pay for it, right? When we're already spending $2 trillion on Medicaid, Medicare, and you say Medicaid, Medicare for all of a sudden the thought goes, well, how do you pay for it? Is it going to go to $10 trillion? And let's be very honest, we have less of a tax base coming in, so less people entering the workforce paying taxes than we have exiting the workforce, right, and needing these services. And so it's, for me, I'll put my industry hat on for a minute and say that, to me, the $2 trillion really needs to be an investment in healthcare facilities, specifically in rural healthcare, obviously eventually transitioning into urban areas, right? But again, we all have seen with this administration what happens when you flip a light switch on and off in the government, right? It causes complete chaos. And so I believe that there's a transition period there to get from the system that we're at today to a healthcare for all. And that transition doesn't necessarily have to be painful on taxpayers to get there. It's a matter of redistributing the money so that it can pay for healthcare for all eventually. So, yeah. Yeah.
Can you explain what block grants are and who administers those on the federal level and what you would do to increase that?
Yeah, so from the Congress's standpoint, right, we're the pocketbook for the country, right? We're the checkbook, and so Congress would earmark money, right, to then go down to the state level, and then the state is responsible for spending that. And the problem is right now you're seeing block grants being used for things like data centers and tax breaks, right? And that really shouldn't be the case. It should be being used to help build the rural and urban communities as they need infrastructure. Does that help? So I guess for me it would be, you know, making sure that money is set aside at the legislative perspective at the federal level, and then coming back to Indiana, working with constituents like yourselves to ensure that money is being made available where it's needed, as well as that you know the process of applying and receiving that money.
What federal agency does that go through?
That I don't know for sure. Yeah, I think that there's to be honest, what I have seen, that there's a multitude of ways to get block grants, so it's not just one agency. So, any other questions? Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I forgot to tell y'all that we're timing you. And back there, Meg's going to hold up a 3 when you have 3 minutes left, and then she'll hold up a 1, and then she'll hold up a, stop kind. So, okay, so Drew, you're next. Drew is another Purdue person. We've got lots of Purdue things going on around up here. From Lafayette, Tippecanoe County.
Yep. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, my name's Drew Cox. I am a lifelong Hoosier. I live in Lafayette, but I'm from around Spiceland, Indiana, originally, if you've ever heard of that, east of Indianapolis a little bit. Where I grew up, my mother is in her 36th year of elementary education right now. My dad is a 4th-generation farmer, so I grew up kind of the all-American, growing up farming, playing football, playing baseball. I joined the Marine Corps. I enlisted in 2008 after high school and was in Afghanistan, and I was honorably discharged. In 2012, after I got out, I used the GI Bill and I went to IU and then later Illinois, and ultimately earned a doctorate in music, and then started teaching at Purdue a few years ago. So I'm a full-time faculty member at Purdue University. One of the main reasons I got in this race, probably the main reason, if I had to be honest, is because of watching ICE and watching ICE terrorize communities here in, terrorize its own citizens, to be completely honest, and particularly targeting blue communities, blue districts, and also communities of color. So that's one thing that I would like to see either ICE conform to the same standards as all other law enforcement agencies, or be abolished, and I'm not sure that they can be saved at this point. Healthcare is a major issue for me. My family was personally affected, has been personally affected quite a bit by the cuts that we saw with the big beautiful bill last summer. I have multiple family members that have been thrown off of Medicaid, and none of them are fraudulent. They're just regular people that have very complex health concerns. My nephew was born with a heart condition in 2011, and in 2013 he was one of the youngest kids in Riley Children's Hospital to have a heart transplant. And over the summer, at the age of, he was 14 years old, he has had Medicaid his entire life. My sister and my brother-in-law were informed that they no longer had Medicaid. They got thrown off of Medicaid over the summer. You would not believe how many kids from Riley Children's Hospital have been kicked off of Medicaid, have lost disability, and it's all in the name of corporate profits. So first and foremost, our campaign is about people over profits. And our campaign has a very unique goal. After the primary, if we win, hopefully, there will be a town hall in every single county. So that's 16 total counties, that's 14 full counties and 2 partial counties in the 4th district. So we're going to have a town hall everywhere. It's the exact opposite of what's happening right now. We don't know, a lot of people don't know, when I tell them I'm running for office, they don't know who Jim Baird is. They don't understand who that person is. They've never heard of him before. And part of that, too, is money in politics. Money in politics is controlling every race. All these races is so heavily influenced by money. So our campaign is firmly in support of overturning Citizens United, first and foremost. We're not accepting any PAC money from any corporation that contributes to wealth inequality in this nation. We're not accepting any money from any ideological PACs, such as APAC, that do not align with our views. So we think that we can have a lot of nice things in our society. We can have all the things that we want if we get money out of politics, 1. And 2 is if we energize the young voters. The young voters are something that we overlook, and we think that that's just a lost cause. But I say that's a huge problem. I think we should face that problem head on. We have the worst voting participation in the whole country, and it only gets worse as you go down in age. And so our campaign, we have a lot of young people that are employed, I say employed, volunteering in the campaign. And when other young people see that these folks, like my campaign manager is 22 years old, my communications director is 19 years old. When other young folks see that they're doing important things, it is really infectious, and it starts to, I think we can really start to change the narrative and start to basically wake up the young folks. And then when those people are in office, then we're going to have everything that we need. We can have health care for all. We can get money out of politics. We can regulate data centers. We can regulate or abolish ICE. But to answer the question of what is one thing that we could do for the rural parts of the district, there are 2 things that I would really want to do, but the first one would be Medicare for all, or a single payer health care for all system. One thing that's problematic with the current Medicare for all proposals is it doesn't really do enough to address rural health care. So if you look at White County, they have what's called mobile integrated health care. And so a single payer health care bill that specifically increases healthcare access in rural areas with mobile integrated health, basically mobile units that drive around and provide health care. That's one thing. And another thing is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, I believe is what that was called, of 2021. That was $1.2 trillion. That was bridges, roads, rural internet access. We have so many failed bridges in all the counties. There are bridges that don't work. We need money for roads. We need money for bridges. Everyone needs to be able to have internet access. And that was $1.2 trillion, and that was over the course of 5 years. So if the president's saying we need $1.5 trillion for defense in 1 year, I think we can do another 5-year, $1.2 trillion investment infrastructure type bill easily. I don't think that went far enough, though. I think that we could spend quite a bit more on our infrastructure. And with that, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, the young voter in the last couple of elections seems to have been bewitched by people like Charlie Kirk, and others. That voter is somewhat disenchanted at the moment. What can your campaign and others like you do to bring that voter back in? I'm a 60s person. The young voter was very critical in changing the direction of some of the major things on the national scene. What can you do to bring that voter back into a more reasonable point of view that the Democratic Party can capitalize on?
Great question. We're already doing that. We have a lot of young folks in the campaign that are here. the Boone County Young Democrats. So when we've gone to different counties, we've basically made a specific connection with the young folks that are there. So Boone County Young Democrats did not exist, and then we helped stand them back up. And so now that there's and that's what I look at as the direct counter to Turning Point USA is not necessarily Young Democrats, but some sort of organization, something that increases their participation, it increases their awareness. So our campaign has maybe 40 people in it. I am like the second or third oldest of the whole campaign. I'm 42. So we're standing up young Democrat groups. We're engaging with them. The Purdue Democrats have lost or did not have their charter for a little while. I'm not going to claim responsibility for standing them back up. That was on their own. But they have a very healthy organization right now. They have a very robust group, and you're seeing a lot of that happening slowly throughout the district. So reaching high school, like we have high school kids in our group, reaching all these young folks is or we're just going to keep doing it, and it's working out pretty well so far. I have 1 minute left. Any more questions? Yeah.
You've talked about a lot of issues that require money, and I personally believe that the best way to get that funding from taxpayers is to make the highest earners pay their fair share in taxes. How would you propose going about that?
Our taxation system certainly favors the 1%, and so our top marginal tax rate is, I believe, 35 or 37% for the highest earners. The corporate tax rate right now in the United States is, I believe, 21%. So in the 1950s, in the 1940s, Republican Dwight Eisenhower, the corporate tax rate got up to 90%. The highest marginal tax rate for the top earners was around 90%. So we have a lot to do. I think we can ask our wealthiest members of society to contribute a little bit more, because the effective tax rate is, the poorer you are, the higher the tax rate you actually pay in this country, based on what you earn. And we also need to generate new income. So our campaign, we've given so many tax breaks to all these people that have more wealth than they can spend. So we need to generate new income, and we need to legalize cannabis in this state. We're surrounded by states that have legal cannabis that could generate over $200 million that could go to our Title I, could go to our schools, and we're losing tons of revenue to outside states, and we just need to embrace what is probably coming anyway. We need that revenue. That's all I have time for. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. John Whetstone comes to us from Montgomery County.
Thank you all for having me today. My name's John Whetstone. I'm a small business owner from Crawfordsville, where I own and operate a retro game and collectible store. For those of you who don't know what it is, that's okay. Basically what I do is, if it's nerdy and worth a couple bucks, we buy and sell it. So to answer the question right off the start, and then I'm going to give my little stump speech, I believe raising the minimum wage to $17.25 an hour and tying it to inflation will be the best for our rural communities as well as our growing suburbs and cities. So I'll get to that a little bit in my stump speech. So I grew up in a small trailer park just outside of Crawfordsville, where both my parents worked multiple jobs to make ends meet because we're being crushed in medical debt. Something I'm sure all of us know someone who is living in a similar situation. I'd wake up in the mornings to get ready for school, and my dad, being home from the factory, we'd have breakfast, he would change clothes, go to his part-time job. He did this day in and day out, and I've hardly ever met someone who's worked as hard as he has. But the harder he worked, the sicker he'd become, and the sicker he became, the more in debt our family became. We know this isn't how it's supposed to work. Hard work is supposed to be rewarded in America. And we had all kinds of people in that trailer park. We had retirees living on fixed income. We had people restarting their lives through divorce, bankruptcy, or getting out of a broken jail system. We had people who would move in from Chicago, Indianapolis, Lafayette, all over the place. And as a child, I was angry. I had just lost my dad. My mom was working a lot more hours to make ends meet. And we were living in a trailer park that wasn't great. Yet I would look outside and my neighbors were so happy. And I wanted that happiness too, so I did the only thing I could think of at the time. I went outside to talk to them. And what they told me boiled down to two very similar concepts. They believed if you worked hard and that you're persistent, you're gonna go anywhere in life and you're gonna do anything. That where we were at, in that trailer park, in those situations, was only temporary. And we know this is the American dream. And to this day, I still believe in the American dream that they taught me. I worked hard. I worked multiple jobs to help put my wife through college, and we were persistent. We saved every penny we could and lived in that same rundown trailer park for years, just so we could open our own small business. But the American dream and working hard isn't enough anymore. Not when the rules are being written by large corporations and their friends in DC. We can look at Dollar General as an example. That company profits billions of dollars a year, and their CEO makes millions. Yet they only pay their employees around $10 an hour. And a lot of us know Dollar General is our local grocery store. At no fault to those employees, to get by, a lot of them need assistance, like SNAP. We've helped create a system that doesn't just subsidize these low wages these companies pay, it rewards them because they accept these programs. Again, no fault to the program, no fault to the people who need them. It's the fault of the employers and their low wages. So I'm happy to take questions there, starting there.
Where did you come up with the value of 17.25 per hour for minimum wage?
So I was looking at a lot of housing for single, just one bedroom housing across the district, and then for it to be 30% of your income, like it's recommended, it put you around the 17 range, and I rounded it up to 17.25 because it's easier to sell than like 17.23 or whatever the number I'd come up with was.
Do you think a small business owner like yourself could afford to pay your employees $17.25 an hour?
Yeah, so actually, in the last couple of years, we've been making big strides to get up to that point. So one of my 2 employees is at $17.25. He's my full-time employee. My part-time is up to $13.25. He should be at $17.25 by this time, by like November-ish. With the idea with my system, I want to do it in a bracketed way where large companies start to move up first, doing it in a multi-layer. So it'll be first $5 for any company over 20 employees. And then 6 months after that, small businesses will raise $5 and large companies will go up another $5. And then 6 months after that, the small businesses will finally hit that 17.25 point. The idea there being when people have more money, they're going to spend it on their needs first, like their medical bills, their food, their housing. Anything extra is going to flow to the local economy, and then small businesses will be able to afford to pay their employees a little bit more. And then that also benefits the communities because we're having higher tax revenue and things like that.
Do you also provide health care?
Not at this time.
For those?
Not at this time, we don't.
I mean, is that not a challenge as well for small businesses because they don't, I mean, say more about that.
Yeah. It is an additional cost for the small businesses. We're not at that point yet to start giving coverage, but again, we're going to have more money flowing in the local economy, so the small businesses should be able to absorb that cost. But I don't have a better answer for you this time.
As a small business owner, how do you feel about unions?
I'm pro-union. I think our employees deserve a voice in the workplace, and something I'm very proud of is every time we get a new employee, it's my favorite time because we have fresh ideas and a fresh say in how things work. Everyone brings strengths, everyone brings weaknesses, so we should embrace them and give them as much say as possible in how things are run.
If you don't make it past this round, how will you continue giving to the community?
So I'm the secretary in my county. I'm already helping other candidates, and I've made a lot of friends along the way that I intend on helping their campaigns to turn Indiana as blue as possible. So I'm fully committed, and I'm going to keep on doing what I can. And to touch a little bit on what Drew said, my campaign also has a lot of young people who are energetic, and the more I talk to, they see a young person in politics and go, I didn't know that was a space for us. So just getting more people into the fold as everywhere I can. Looks like we're out of questions, so I'm going to pass it on to the next one.
Thank you, John. Next up is Joe Mackey. And Joe comes to us from Lafayette, Tippecanoe County.
Tippecanoe County is arguably the bluest county in the district, probably in all of central Indiana. We don't have that benefit across any other counties. I'm a blue-collar guy. I spent 30 years on the machine shop floor. I got involved in politics because of healthcare. So many people here know me, but for those that don't, my wife and I lost 2 children to cancer in a span of 30 months. We lost our daughter Claire in a total of 18 days. She went from being a happy, healthy 14-year-old girl preparing to celebrate her 15th birthday to being buried in 18 days. And she spent a total of 5 days at Riley, and our out-of-pocket expense that came to us was $440,000. I'm sorry, $40,000. My apologies. 22 months later, our 18-year-old son was diagnosed with ALL B-cell leukemia. He survived 8.5 months of treatment, including a stem cell transplant. His gross billing was $7.26 million, and the out-of-pocket expense on Patrick's treatment was $440,000. I am a blue-collar guy. I worked as a machinist. My wife is a registered nurse. We weren't going to earn $7.26 million in our lifetime, and we found ourselves crushed by medical debt. It's not the only story. Our foundation works with pediatric cancer patients who are being treated at Riley. We step in and help them pay those out-of-pocket expenses for their medicines, which is significant. For those of you that don't know, when a child goes through full-body radiation treatment, ulcers develop through the entirety of the gastrointestinal system. It makes it very hard for these children to swallow something as simple as water. So the doctors recommend Mary's Magic Mouthwash. Anyone familiar with Mary's Magic Mouthwash? $70 at the time. It's probably more than that now for a little 10-ounce bottle. We've had social workers come to us and say, Patrick needs this specially made chemotherapeutic medicine. It costs $40,000. We have to order it in the next 2 hours because we're on a timeline, and we haven't heard from your insurance company. Can you show us how to, that you have $40,000 in equity that you can buy this medicine? And this is what working people are up against where healthcare is concerned. I have been fighting for Medicare for All since 2014. And I am well known across the state in the Medicare for All hemisphere, if you will, biosphere. We understand the short change that the Medicare for All programs in Washington that are being floated today pass on to rural communities. Our infant mortality rate here in the state of Indiana is the 7th worst in the country. It's actually higher than Indiana's abortion rate as of 2022. Our maternal mortality rate here in Indiana is the 3rd worst in the country. And a majority of those children who are dying in rural areas, women and children. And I say this, the more marginalized the woman, the more marginalized the child. And we are now faced with a Republican Party who is looking to exclude 46 million women from voting. So what does that mean for you and your children? It means that you are going to be reliant on the men in this room to fight for you, and I think that's wrong. I think your voice in our political system is necessary. We can have mobile rural health care. We can have that. The state of Nevada has one of the most comprehensive integrated rural mobile health care programs in the country. It was created in Nevada because for the first time in our nation's history, a state house was dominated by women. And it was Republican and Democratic women who came together, who wrote this legislation, who passed this legislation, who put these programs in practice. We can do that as well. We can do it at the federal level. We have a model that works. Drew mentioned White County. That was my friend Kathy Gross, the former mayor in Monticello, who started that program working with Republican county commissioners. And what they found was the program itself was a huge success. Rave reviews, lots of thank yous, lots of well dones. And if truth and statistics hold true, 70% of those people living in that rural county were Republican. So we know Republicans like this program. We just have to have the political will to provide it. Now you asked me, the original question was, what's one issue that affects everyone, urban, suburban, rural? And we're talking about it in every county across the state today, and that's water. We have no comprehensive water consumption and reuse program in place, and we have not modernized what we do have in the last 46 years. So as a nation, we need to understand that water is a finite resource, and we've already watched overconsumption collapse 2 aquifers out west. And the same companies that were involved in collapsing those aquifers are moving here. They are following the water, our water. We in Lafayette and Tippecanoe County battled the leak district because they were going to come into the Taze River and they were going to pump out 150 million gallons a day. But no one stopped long enough to think that the Taze River extends through northern Indiana, across the entirety of Pennsylvania, across the entirety of northern Ohio, and into West Virginia. And every community along that river is looking at using that river for its own developments. We must have a comprehensive water consumption and reuse program. It is fundamental to the security and well-being of every single community here in the state of Indiana, across the nation from coast to coast. Must have it, must get it done. So I'm going to stop here and allow questions. I hope you have some. I'm ready to answer them. I see hands going up. Let me start with this young man here, and I will work my way around the room.
Okay, so this is not your first time running, yeah?
No, it's not.
And you have had the nomination before, right?
I have.
So what are you going to do differently this time that you didn't do last time that'll help you win in the general if you win this primary?
So let's just say something very quickly here, and then I'll get to your question. And that is, Abraham Lincoln ran for office 6 times before he won his first race. And here in Indiana, being a Democrat that loses a political race is not a sign of failure. Teresa Brandon, my campaign manager, and I, on $45,000 in a congressional race, got 33% of the vote. We know candidates who ran at the same time who spent $1 million got 35% of the vote. We have the winning message. We have it. We didn't have the winning money. And that is because outside interests don't invest in Democrats here in Indiana. Democrats in Indiana, in this cycle alone, will send $4 to $5 million out of state. Oh, James Tallarico sending Texas messages, send me $10. We're getting it from Florida, we're getting it from Georgia, we're getting it from Maine. We have them reaching out to us from California. And I would tell you that if Hoosiers sum up the courage to leave your money at home, Georgia will be fine. Texas will be fine. Florida will be fine. You know who's not fine? All of us here and all these candidates. Jared Petrie is here, running for a county council seat right here in Hendricks County. We are swimming in the same donor pool, and it gets pretty thin. And so what does that mean? That means that any one of us that win are going to live in our car. We are going to have to drive this district as I have been doing. People say, oh, you've been very busy. This lady in the pink had a question.
Well, I'm referring to water as our main concern. Why are we presenting and some are winning these data centers? They're known, number one, to use a huge amount of water and our electricity power source.
Right.
And they're going to kill us with lack of water.
Hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent on this issue, as opposed to, say, the more progressive side of the argument, who's spending thousands of dollars. It is skewed. Next question, a real quick question. I'm sorry, this lady back here. Yes, ma'am.
So, I've heard you speak multiple times.
Yes.
And you've talked about modifying the ACA.
Yes.
Not Medicare for all. And your website also does not say Medicare for all. It says Medicare for those who want it. Are you changing your position?
Well, okay, so if you look at Mayor Pete's program, Medicare for those who want it, the benefit of that is Republicans can't come back and say, oh, you're taxing me for something I don't want. So if you do it a Medicare for those who want it, the only people whose taxes are going to go up are those who buy into the program. I don't say Medicare for all because Bernie's program only covers 80% of the country. The other 20% live in Monrovia, where I just came from. They live in Jasper County and White County, and they live in Montgomery County, the rural counties where you're going to see their taxes go up for years before they get anything in Bernie's program beyond pharmaceutical medicine. That's why I don't support a Medicare for all without something that bridges the rural health care gap. I'm done. Thank you. I'm sorry. If you have questions, I'll hang around. We'll get them answered.
Yeah, excuse me, we're likely going to have some time to ask questions of these candidates after they've all had a chance to speak. So don't fret over that. So next is Darin Griesey, and Darin can speak to those Monticello, White County kinds of things for sure, because like that's where he hails from. Here you go, Darin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Hendricks County, I'm happy to be here. Darin Griesey is my name. I'm a 30-year advocate for change throughout Indiana. And the reason I'm running for Congress, friends, is because the people of Indiana's 4th District need representatives that aren't just willing to talk. You deserve somebody that shows up, listens carefully, works hard, and delivers the results that you actually want to see in your life. Too many times our families are told, less help is what you need, less accountability from Washington, less respect for your time, your money, and the efforts that it takes you to build a good life. I don't want to accept that, and I know, friends, you don't want to accept that either. So first, if you haven't been watching, I put forward a day one pledge that will make transformative changes in people's lives throughout this district and across America. On day one, I promise to fight for term limits for Congress and term limits for the Supreme Court, because power should never be permanent, my friends, and public service should never be a lifetime entitlement. I will fight to protect Social Security because our seniors earn those benefits through a lifetime of work, and they should be able to count on them without fear and uncertainty. And I'm going to work to create a health care system that guarantees coverage for every American, because no family should have to choose between getting care, paying rent, buying groceries, or keeping the lights on. Friends, my day one pledge promises to reform the federal education formula, allowing states and school districts now to focus on a student's needs and not their test scores. Friends, I'm going to work to secure our American energy grid, because energy security is economic security, national security, and our family security. Friends, I'm going to protect our public lands, our waters, because clean water and open spaces and a healthy natural world are part of what we need to pass on to our next generations. Friends, I'm going to fight for a system, a tax system that finally asks our wealthiest here in this country to pay their fair share, so working families, small businesses, and middle-class Hoosiers can finally get ahead. I'm going to demand immigration reform to stop ICE from terrorizing our neighborhoods and violating our laws. I'm going to work to reduce gun violence because every parent deserves to send their child to school, to the store, or to the park, or even over to a friend's house without the fear of being shot. Friends, I will legislate to decriminalize cannabis and finally allowing hemp to take its place next to corn and soybeans as a great American commodity. Friends, this is my pledge on day one. It's not a slogan, it's not a soundbite, it's what I'm promising on doing. And any one of those promises for change could probably transform the lives of any one of us in this room. Any one of those bills that got passed could probably make a difference. And I could sit down at this point, but you know, friends, that's not the way it works. Because you see what's happening in Washington right now, my friends. Bills may get blocked, back doors always are getting done, and election cycles come and go. So I want to be judged, friends, not just by my words and my promises, or by the bills that I introduce. I want constituents to be able to track my progress. I want people throughout this 4th district, in our suburbs, in our cities, and in our rural communities to be able to say, hey, Darin's getting this work done. It means transparency. It means measurable outcomes. It means clear goals. So, friends, on my first 100 days in office, what I'm planning on doing is building a district operation that will answer the phones. It's going to respond quickly to the needs and problems of our community. Constituents need to be able to track how long it takes to get a response. How many cases were opened? How many were resolved? How many families were helped? Helped not only through my office, but through the help of other federal agencies, like Social Security, Veterans Services. Maybe you need help with a passport. There's some disaster aid in the area. Or you have a family that needs some housing assistance. A good congressional office should be able to tell you what's happening not only in Washington, but what's happening back here at home as well. So I'm going to hold monthly town halls and listening sessions on weekends. And I'm going to get a mobile office that will travel across the district and listen to constituents' needs. Because people need to be able to track how many communities are visited, how many public meetings were held, how many residents actually attended these meetings, what were their issues, and were they ever followed up on? So I'm going to work to not only work to lower everyday costs for families, that means lowering, the input costs and the trade barriers for our farmers. That means supporting local business solutions that increase the supply and the affordability of our local housing. That means tracking infrastructure investment, local grants, and district advocacy, and how I was able to accomplish that. That means pushing for roads and bridges and water systems that are safer and more reliable. And I'll be able to measure those results, friends, by miles of roads repaired, by projects funded, and those communities that were served. Those are real ways to make a difference in these communities, and those are the only real way that you're going to be able to track the results of this campaign. I promise, friends, that the success will be able to be seen throughout our district by the number of businesses that opened, by the number of workers that got trained, by the number of apprentices that have been placed, or the number of new local businesses that are hiring. My office will track whether more residents have access to care, whether telehealth options are available throughout our communities, and the possible new transportation opportunities that are available for those people that need to get to a hospital and can't afford to get there. Every quarter, friends, I promise to publish updates. How many cases were resolved? How many community meetings were held? That's how my trust for you is going to be earned, and that's how your trust is going to be earned back from me. That's how confidence is built. Friends, here in Hendricks County, it means better roads, less congestion. It means smart growth. It means housing that your children can someday afford. It means a representative who understands improving someone's quality of life. It's not an abstract idea. It's about putting solutions forward. But But in our rural communities, it's going to be different. It means protecting our land and our water and improving access to health care and making sure redevelopment funding is available so our small towns are not forgotten. So throughout this district, it means having a representative and a government that's willing to work for you. I know you're not asking for any special treatment, friends. You're just asking for fair treatment. You're asking for competence from your elected official, and you want a fair shot at getting a chance to grab at that brass ring. That's why I'm offering, friends, not only a one-day pledge, but my first 100-day promise of creating measurable results around this district. In closing, friends, this campaign is not about serving the powerful insiders in Washington. It's about you and your ability to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. That's why I made my day one pledge to change Washington, and that's why in my first 100 days, I'm going to change the way servant leadership is done in this district. If you're tired of being ignored, if you're tired of watching the few get more while you get less, then you need to join this campaign. This district is not for sale, my friends. Your families come first, and I promise to deliver that change. So when you vote Griesey for Congress, I promise, friends, I promise you loud and clear here on this day, we will usher in a new level of servant leadership, not only in this district, but also in Washington. God bless each and every one of you. Please get home safely today, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you this afternoon. I do have about 30 seconds. If there is a question from the audience, I'd be more than willing to take one right quick. Yes, in the back, please.
Cindy, your question.
Oh, me?
Yeah, well, certainly. Whoever.
This lady back there.
Okay, sorry.
So how are you going to minimize these guns?
How am I going to minimize what? I'm sorry, I can't hear.
This gun problem.
Oh, thank you. We didn't even get a chance to talk about that. If you haven't had a chance to go to my website and take a look at my day one pledge, what I'm trying to do with gun violence is I recognize there's a lot of people out there that don't know what they're doing. So my day one pledge is to bring forth a bill that will require, in order to possess and purchase a firearm in America, you're going to have to take a test. Now, for a hot minute, states around the country were applying those principles. Texas, in 2000, put a bill in place that was going to force everybody in the state to take a test to show that they were competent and in order to purchase a firearm in that state. That was repealed, but it showed very success for a long time in Texas until repeal. And so that's one of my pledges that I brought forth, is to bring a bill to Congress that will force people's hand, and they'll have to take a test in order to show they're competent to possess, carry a firearm in America. We're out of time, friends. I'll be around for a hot minute, please. Thank you. You got one more time, Darin.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least is Jayden McCash. Jayden is from Plainfield, yeah? Avon, yeah, right here in Guilford Township. So take that, Tippy Cannon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone for coming today. I'm Jayden McCash. I'm a union truck driver. My first apartment was actually right down the road at Stafford Point Apartments, and met my wife while I lived there, and we have 3 beautiful kids, and we have a house in Brownsburg. We've lived there for 6 years. I decided to join the race because of them. Yeah, my 3 young children are the reason. Better?
Yeah.
Again, like I said, I'm a union truck driver. I'm a lifelong Hendricks County resident. I graduated from Avon High School. My first apartment was down the road at Stafford Point Apartments. Met my wife while I lived there. We have a house together in Brownsburg. We have 3 young children together. They're the reason why I wanted to join the race. I'm sick and tired of the status quo. After years of politicians funding a genocide right in our face in Gaza, after years of hearing false campaign promises, I want to see action in D.C. My campaign message is simple. We're Hoosier first. We're anti-war. We want Medicare for all. We're pro-union. And we want to uncap the House of Representatives to get a better representation in everyone who run our great state. When I'm your representative, I'll never fund a war of choice. We have too many problems at home to pay for bombs to kill civilians on the other side of the world, including double tapping a girls' school with atomic missile. I'll hold ICE accountable for their actions. ICE is in the top 15 military funding in the whole world, so we're funding 2 militaries, one's on our streets. Healthcare should be a birthright for every American. I'll fight for a single-payer Medicare for all system. Your healthcare should be between you and your doctor, not you and your insurance company. I want to eliminate the insurance companies. Your healthcare also should not be tied to your employer. If you lose your job, your children shouldn't lose their healthcare as well. No one should have to take out a second or third job to pay for their child's cancer diagnosis. I'll fight for union protections for employees that would like to form a union. I'll fight to uncap the House of Representatives. We've been stuck at 435 representatives since 1929. Back then, we had about 200,000 people per district. Today, there's about 800,000. Our district stretches from Martinsville all the way to DeMont. We share 2 time zones. Congress can get this done without presidential approval, and I feel like it would definitely bring better representation for everyone across the great nation. To answer the question, during my first year in office, I pledged not to send a dime of your tax dollars overseas until Congress gets Medicare for all. It's my red line. I'm done with talking about getting it done. I want to get it done, and I'll fight for it every single second I'm in Washington and also back home in our district. I'll draft legislation to wipe away medical debt for every American. That'll cost about $220 billion. Our president wants $200 billion for this illegal war in Iran. So we have the money. The politicians are the problem for not wanting to send the money to actually get things done for all of us. Single-payer Medicare for all will benefit every Hoosier in our district. Healthcare is a bipartisan issue. Even if you're a super Trump supporter, you need Medicare, and I want to make sure you get that as well. And again, I'll never stop fighting for that the whole time I'm in office. I pledge to never take a dime from AIPAC or any other PAC donor. I will not be bought. We're a campaign for the people. I'll always work for our common best interest because I will not be bribed to work for billionaires. I believe in democracy and forcing the corporate elite to pay for their fair share in taxes. Government officials should not be able to buy or sell trade stocks while in office. There's too much insider trading going on, and again, if we did that, we would go to jail. We need to hold them accountable and stop that. This job is about providing a voice for the people, for working families like myself. It's not to get rich. I will not make any extra money for this position. It's wrong that you come in, pretty wealthy and you leave a multi-millionaire. That shouldn't be right. I look forward to meeting any one of you guys afterwards, and I'd like to open it for questions.
This question is for you, but also I want everyone else to pay attention to this too, and think about what an answer might be. This is one of the most conservative districts in eastern Mississippi for sure, and we often have heard the tax and spend liberals and tax and spend Democrats. We find ourselves today in a situation where we're going to be looking at a $39 trillion national debt, and interest payments on a loan on the debt are going to be approaching $1 trillion a year. So discretionary spending, we only have about 26% of the entire budget to make decisions about. Everything else is baked in. And so what is your take on how to address that competing priority, which must be paid? Debt comes first.
Yeah.
How are we going to balance that against all of the other promises that we're making? Personally, I'd love to have Medicare for all or some version of that, but it's going to be a tough challenge to run in this district and say, we're going to raise taxes. So, what do you think?
Yeah, with us being $39 trillion and counting in debt, that's from all the foreign wars overseas. It accounts to a lot of that. Our return on investment as tax dollars is, I agree, I think it's awful. We've spent so much, we're in debt as a country. It's causing inflation to go up, making things unaffordable. In our Ruby Red district, we're about 35 points behind the incumbent, whoever's going to be Jim Baird or Craig Haggard. They didn't run a Libertarian candidate, so it could be a little higher. We're going to have to appeal about 15 to 25% of them to join us. And I feel like my campaign message of being Hoosier First, similar to their America First, but the America First they got ended up being Israel First and fighting overseas, sending your troops over there and causing more debt, causing more inflation. So everyone's, they claim the big beautiful bill that there's a tax cut. It's only a tax cut for the super elite. It's not going to trickle down to us. We need to tax the billionaires, tax the companies their fair share, and I believe we can convince people that we can actually get what we want to get done, and that we can actually have a brighter future together. Next question.
Following up on that, Elon Musk pays very little because he has no income.
Yep.
So he doesn't pay income tax. He just borrows money against his capital in the stock that he owns in his business to fund his very lavish lifestyle. And so here you have talking about taxing billionaires. Well, they don't have any income. They just, I think Elon Musk, one of them, Bezos, I think, his income is $82,000 a year, which is less probably than a high school teacher in Indiana who's been teaching for maybe 15, 20 years. They probably make more than that.
Yeah.
At this point.
No, they don't.
But how do you propose that we get the money out of those Midases who have all this money and who are able to avoid income tax, and they just spend because they borrow?
Yeah.
And they never pay it back.
Yeah. So they report that they don't make, as much money income-wise, so then they can, it's pretty much a big tax loophole that their people, have made, and that they've paid and bought politicians to keep that loophole open for them. I will fight to close that loophole, make them actually report, their earnings. Again, Elon Musk alone, just since 2024, or 2025, whenever Trump got sworn in, his net worth he's going to be likely a trillionaire very soon. But again, he's reporting only X amount. If we close the loophole and actually make it a taxable dollars and not make it just a borrowing or shifting around different areas to pay, to look like they're not making as much money, then we can have access to that and then get Medicare for all for everybody. And it's a birthright. I think it's a common issue for everybody, regardless if they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian. Access to health care and having Medicare for all should be a birthright for everyone, and I think we can get that done. Yes.
What will you be doing if you don't make it through this primary season?
I'll support whoever wins the nomination, because we need to beat Baird or Haggard. I will hope that they will, whoever does win wants to do the Medicare for all system, and that if, that we can actually get it done. So I'll just be, a fly in their ear the whole time, and hopefully we just need to make some change. I think we're all done with the status quo, and that whoever does win this can definitely make it the right direction to hopefully take off the incumbent, Jim Baird or Craig Haggard.
You said you didn't want to take any. Oh.
You can go ahead, Jared, answer that question.
Yes.
It's a quick question. You said you didn't want to take any money from any kind of PACs. I'm in a union, and we have a political action committee that does support anybody who supports labor, mostly Democrats. But you said you're a part of a union. I don't know if they have a PAC, but would you take money from union PACs?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be great. Definitely to help fund the campaign. I personally just don't want to have anyone dictating what I say or do, or any beliefs. I'd rather, my goal, we're very grassroots. If we can stay grassroots, that's my top goal. Hopefully get either support or endorsements from unions would be great. But at the end of the day, I think politics shouldn't be about money, and we need to get money out of politics and out of the campaigning process as a whole. Also, I believe that whenever you donate to a campaign, I think you should live in the district that you donate to. and because paying for politicians is a local issue.
Thank you, Jayden. So there were some really good questions from the audience. Thank you for that. I want to thank the library for hosting us all. It's a really nice facility. And I want us, some of you are going to bolt fast, some of you will hang around for questions. So I want a big hand for all of these candidates. The longer I mess around with politics, the more impressed I am with anyone who takes that step out to become a candidate for anything. It's a completely remarkable act. And so I think we need to think about that a lot. And also, so there's a couple of things I want to say before we go to questions. I want to remind all of you, if you haven't already, to go vote. Early voting, here in Hendricks County, the satellite locations will open on Monday morning. And in addition to the one at the Hendricks County Fairgrounds that's been doing voting for the previous 2 weeks. Do you have a question, Darcy? And the other thing I want to say is, last year at the HH dinner, one of the things I said, I got to say 2 things, and one of the things I said was, stop sending money out of Indiana. We need that money. We got to have the money, and these guys got to have the money. The people, we've got 2 other candidates. We've got a county candidate and a House District candidate, Jerry Petrie, Will Coltrion. They need that money. They need money. I know it's a terrible thing to say, but it is the facts of the world we live in. We got to have money. We got to have lots of money. I'm just saying, just so you know, just to add that. And also, I want to remind everybody that as you leave, there's a table out by the door. And we're selling our Triple D raffle tickets. We've got a few more to get to 300, so we can give a grand prize of $1,000. So I'm going to now. Is there a question? I kind of like that national. Yes.
I have a kind of a easy 3 questions, kind of. Since there are so many of you, right? Very polluted race, which we love. Thank you all for stepping up.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you're a veteran. Okay. Will you? Sorry, I just wrote this down. Will you raise your hand if you ran in a race before, in a political race before? And who's worked in public office before?
Congress.
Okay, thank you. Just for like a general overview. Thank you.
So I would like to say, if we can go through, if you have questions, please stay and ask those questions of these candidates. They will hang around as long as somebody wants to have an answer to something that they can contribute to that. So I want to thank you all for coming too. So let's entertain some questions.
Yes.
Can I just ask by a show of hands, how many of you are willing to admit that Israel is committing a genocide in Palestine? Great. Awesome.
Yes, I was wondering specific plans for countering the overwhelming Republican candidates. What are you going to do to convince those people to cross over to the correct side?
Take it. You can all.
Yeah, so I'm out knocking on doors. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican. I'm going to knock on your door, introduce myself, explain my platform, ask them to learn more about me. I've actually spent some time over the past couple weeks in rural Warren County, which is super MAGA and super red, talking with business owners that, in fact, one of the people that donated to my campaign said, hey, Paul, I want you to go out and talk to these people. They're as close to MAGA as they can get without being MAGA. And I said, okay, this will be interesting. And because I'm a numbers guy, I'm a business-oriented minded guy, I went and talked numbers with them, and I talked to them about the $2 trillion that's already being spent on Medicaid, Medicare, and how that's being spent. And believe it or not, I talked to about 15 people in one afternoon, just again, various business owners, and they were convinced that now they probably won't vote for me in the primary, but they will probably vote for me in the general election if I make it through. So just getting out and talking with them.
I think being a military veteran is very important for several reasons. One is both Craig Haggard and Jim Baird are military veterans, and they're both going to be leaning heavily into that. However, Jim Baird voted against the PACT Act. Jim Baird voted against veterans' interests, and I want to be a voice for veterans. 20 or so veteran suicides per day, thousands per year. There are approximately, I think, 30 to 40,000 homeless veterans right now in the United States. So that's a very important piece. And I'm also a farm boy. I'm a country boy, but I think the veteran aspect is something that is going to be difficult to, if you're not a veteran, I think you're going to have a very difficult time matching up against Jim Baird or Craig Haggard.
Yeah, so I have two big reasons. Growing up in a trailer park, most of my neighbors flew MAGA flags or adjacent to MAGA flags. Never stopped me from having a conversation with them, and as a result, I have no problem talking to people like that. A good portion of my volunteer staff right now come from the Republican Party and the Libertarian Party. To expand on that a little bit more, it's mainly because I stick to the issues that impact all of us, like our wages, like our housing costs and our grocery costs. For the Libertarians that I get to come to our side, I am a pro-2A Democrat. I know we're pretty rare. And I'm also pretty against the flock cameras and surveillance state that the Republican Party around here is pushing. So that's another way. In my business life, I get to have these conversations almost daily with people, because a large part of what we do is sell used items. So we have people who worked really hard for something, who can no longer afford their groceries, and they have to bring it to us to sell just so they can get by. So the conversation starts with that. We then try to find them resources so they're not scrambling next month to make ends meet. And then we talk the hard part, the politics behind it. And that's how we're getting support from Republicans and cross-party.
Thank you, John. Yeah, the thing about this, and this is an unusual election cycle, because we're seeing more and more Republicans show up at events and engage and ask questions. Now, when you have a federal government that is looking at, we need $1.5 trillion to wage war on Iran, and we're going to get that from the social safety net, it's important to understand that there are more Republicans in Indiana engaged in that social safety net than there are Democrats, only by population. So they now are very concerned. I was in Kokomo last week, and there was a gentleman there who said he has probably been voting Republican since Gerald R. Ford, who sent me a very nice email. I shared it with several people on our campaign, talking about the fact that he found himself in agreement with me on a great number of these issues and wants to support me. We have a gentleman working on our campaign right now who was Suzanne Crouch's 4th District campaign chair, who has left his party, announced he is a Democrat, is running for a county council seat in Clinton County. His name is Lewis Wheeler, and he is an excellent candidate, but he is a James Tallarico, Joe Mackey kind of Republican who does not recognize any longer his party. The Republicans are coming. What we have to do, and our challenge is not to allow Craig Haggard or Jim Baird to drag us off into the weeds with superfluous arguments. We stick to the dinner table issues. We stick to those issues because those are the issues we're winning on. And we're going to win this race, whomever it is that comes out of this. And I want you to know I'm prepared to support whoever that is. And I'm the one Democrat running today who's made that promise in the past and lived up to it. I campaigned more for Toby Beck in 2018 than Toby did for herself. That's how I made my name. I stick to my word. In politics, your word is your bond. And I have proven over and over again in this district that I keep my word.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Yeah, if you've had a chance to follow my Day One pledge at all, you'll see that I have brought forth a series of bills that are appealing to the most conservative person in the room, to the most liberal person in the room. Everybody wants to make sure their Social Security is upheld. Everybody wants to make sure that we get some change in Washington. Everyone would like to see a balanced budget. It's those kind of ideas that are able to shoot across the board, that can draw in a very, very diverse group of people, and they're already coming to this campaign. But then, not only do I have the policy ideas, but I'm out having fun. If anybody's been paying attention, I promised to kayak the district 100 miles in 100 days. You don't know how many conservatives, Republicans, that I get feedback from all the time. I spent 6 years on my local farm bureau board. I know how to talk to these people. I'm a 4th generation farm owner, friends, for crying out loud. I've coordinated federal dollars throughout Indianapolis, lifting hearts and minds. People want to know that their government is working for them. That's why I believe not only that I'm going to win this primary, but we're going to take this all the way to the fall and win there too.
Yeah, I would label myself an independent on this ticket, running as a Democrat. So I think that's going to hopefully make the move for the Republicans to maybe support this campaign or support us if we win the primary, a little more comfortable for them to want to vote on our side. I agree with pretty much all the Democratic platform. I feel like it's just an easier selling point when I talk to Republicans to get them to support our campaign, and we've had a pretty good track record of that so far. So I feel like if we can, we have to pill just enough of them to, they're creatures of habit of who they vote for, so if we get them outside their comfort zone a little bit and explain that the government's supposed to work for you, not against you, and that you keep getting misguided and lied to, that if we can have some transparency back as representation, that would definitely help.
Matt Mayer is here as well. Matt Mayer, for those of you who don't know, is the chair of the district, of Congressional District 4 of the Democrats in the state, and he has something he wants to say about that question.
Thank you, Linda. And I want to thank Linda and the county party for organizing this today. This is a great turnout. I'm in a lucky position here. I'm not running for office, so I can say things these 6 can't. The answer to your question is you and everyone in this room. Realistically, we need 200,000 votes to win this election. Not one of these campaigns on their own can get in front of 200,000 people between now and November. It's just not possible, especially with the fundraising gap we have. Linda's already hit you over the head on the money, and I know she'll keep hitting you over the head. So I'm going to let you off the hook on the money, but I'm not going to let you off the hook on the volunteering. We have 16 counties in this district. We are in the largest county right now. There are about 700,000 voters, I think, total in this district. 120,000 are in this county. Hendricks, Tippecanoe, Morgan, and Boone are 68% of this district. You cannot get in front of 200,000 people, and that's how you do it. Forget about the text messaging. For every 381 text messages you send, you pick up a voter. You send 1,000 text messages, great, you found yourself 2 voters. For every 17 doors you knock, you pick up a voter. You knock on 1,000 doors, you get 60 voters. These guys can't knock on 200,000 doors. Their campaigns cannot knock on 200,000 doors or make 200,000 phone calls or write 200,000 letters. You want to see Jim Baird gone? You want to prevent Craig Haggard? God forbid John Piper, because oh boy, trust me, we'll be in it then. You want to win? You want to see real change? You're the change.
No one's coming to save us. We've got to save ourselves. Thank you.
I liked it a lot. Because the other thing I talk about the most besides money is volunteers. We are the party. We are it. It has come down to this, come down to us. We've got to do it. We've got to walk it. We've got to talk it. And so go to the HendricksCountyDemocrats.com website, and you can find so many volunteer opportunities. So we still have a little bit of time. If anybody's up for a question, yes, sir.
One of the things that is so important is for candidates or whoever is in Congress to relate to their constituency. I have written to Baird on numerous occasions, and I get the same damn form letter from him, and he never addresses my issue. If you get elected, deal with the issue that your constituency asks you about, and please be responsive to their concerns. And whatever your response is to them, be honest with us about what you think and what you believe.
There's some good advice there from your constituent right there. That's a good thing. Yes, ma'am.
Some of you talked very passionately about young people, but not everyone did. And I just wondered if you could each say how you're involving young people in your campaign and trying to bring them into the political process.
So she's wondering about young people in the campaigns.
Yeah, so I guess I'll say my hands are a little bit tied on that in terms of especially the college age. Because I am a faculty and admin at Purdue, I cannot campaign at Purdue. It's against the rules for me to do that. But I do have students that know that I'm running, and they are going out and helping campaign and spread the message for me. But I myself can't do that. I guess a couple other things that I want to mention, and kind of piggybacking off of Matt and Linda, is, you know, I'm a numbers guy. And so when it comes to keeping the money in the district, in 2024, there was 100,000 Democratic votes cast in the general election. If everybody donated $5, that's $500,000. $10, that's $1 million. That can win one of these guys or myself an election, right? And so it's $5, right? $5 can help a campaign out drastically. So we're not talking hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. We're talking small, really grassroots can win this if people come together. So.
Yeah, when I asked that question, I think Drew is the front runner in the young people, so I just wanted to hear from the rest of you.
So, you know, here's the challenge for the Democratic Party. When we talk about young people, we look to the high schools, we look to the colleges. But if you go south out of Tippecanoe County on US 52 and you turn north on State Road 28 going into Frankfort and Clinton County, you pass just an incredible number of factories full of 18 to 35-year-olds who do not believe that government works for them. And being a blue-collar guy, I am talking to them. I have to convince them that their vote matters because they don't feel engaged by either party. And I get it. They're blue-collar people. They're working for $15 an hour. It doesn't matter what shift they're on. When the economy gets slow, they get thrown in the streets. And when the economy picks up, they're called back to work. I've been laid off. I've stood in the unemployment line. We have struggled to make ends meet. We have struggled to make a house payment, a car payment. How are we going to feed our children? These are the issues that I talk to with these young factory workers. And here's the deal. College kids, wonderful young Democrats working hard, they graduate, they take a job, they move on. But those folks working in those little factories, they're here day in, day out. They live here in this district. They're not going anywhere. And those are the votes Democrats need to cultivate.
Yeah, how this campaign has been trying to reach out to young people from the very beginning. I'm a singer-songwriter in one of my other fantasy lives way back in the day before I got woke in Los Angeles. I'm out playing music all the time, singing songs, performing. I have a gig tonight, if you want to know the truth. I'm also out registering voters. I've just recently registered young people at Pioneer High School, which is in the district. And in order to try to combat the Turning Point USA phenomenon that's going on, my campaign has promised, if I win the primary, that we will put out a civics handbook directed towards young people that are still in elementary, upper elementary, 4th and 5th grade. Initially, I thought we may target an older group, but talking to educators and really kids in high school, they told me, Darin, you really, if you want to try to capture young people and bring them back into the socio-political process, because we want to get them engaged, not only in this campaign, but in future, educating them with a civics handbook that has a directory component and a journal component to help kids not only understand the world around them, but understand themselves. That's what we're currently working on. And we have a cookbook and all sorts of other initiatives coming forward in the future as well. It's those kind of things. And just being present and coming forth with initiatives and ideas that attract everybody across the spectrum, from the oldest person in the room to the youngest person, and having a lot of energy that you're seeing. Those are the kind of activities that I think will bring more and more young people, not only this campaign, but back into the socio-political process.
Yeah, our campaign's done a pretty good job getting young people to come out and support us. I'm part of the younger generation. I'm 29 years old. People see that and they like, oh, I can do that too, and they can really rally behind that. If I can go against Jim Baird, who's incumbent, is 80 years old, versus myself, he might say I'm inexperienced, but at least I'm not bought and paid for, and I'll have the support hopefully of the people in the district, and that we can hopefully make a positive difference in our district.
I wasn't going to talk again about this, but I kind of want to touch on something I missed. So young people, they want to see young people doing this. Every county I go to, I'm constantly talking to young people who want to get involved. I don't know about this county, how you guys are doing on PC people. I always try to direct them there, because that's the first place they can get a voice in their local party. I'm going to take a step further and ask all y'all, kind of like Matt brought up, how it takes all of us. The one thing I hear from young people all the time in politics is it feels like they want my vote, but they don't want my voice. So I'm just asking you, if you're talking to a young person, try not to put the blame on the party shortcomings on them. Try to get them involved in the conversation, and try to get them just working with you and taking their ideas seriously as well. So.
Thanks, you guys. So young people. Yes.
First of all, I think with the whole No Kings movement, we have a lot of people who are independent and Republican who are looking because they are not happy. So that's good news that we have a chance. And two, do you all have a website we can go to, or do you do a podcast that we can get more information if we want to dive deeper?
I think most of them do. We do have some candidates who can, outside this building, hand you some literature, some palm cards that have website addresses on them, but we cannot utilize those materials inside the library.
After this event is done, there'll be a recording of it on YouTube. So if you can tell your friend, hey, I went to this event, I learned so much. We'll have everyone's website linked in there as well, so it'd be a whole great summary for everyone who joined us today.
You all wanted to say something? Somebody wanted to say
Yeah, so my website's whetstoneforcongress.com. I'm also doing a virtual town hall tomorrow evening. I think Progressive Indiana Network is hosting that as well, if you want to hear me talk some more tomorrow.
Ted has a question. Ted, you got a question?
I have a difficult question.
Okay.
Because we've asked every one of the candidates, and I think it is awesome that we have this number of candidates. But in the end, somebody's going to win and some are going to lose. And we've asked, are you going to support the other candidates? And everybody says yes. I want to know how. I don't want it just to be, oh, yep, go vote Democrat and you disappear. Too many times we see some of these competitive ones, and when somebody loses, they quietly disappear. And if we are actively electing Democrats, I want to know what you're going to do to support them, not just say, I'm going to support them. I would like to know what actions you take to do that.
Yeah, I'll take that. So one of the things I would continue to do is knock on doors for people. I hit about 50 doors an hour. Me personally, I've knocked on about 3,000 doors so far in the district. If the weather would hold a little bit better, I'd be on more doors. But you know, I've told other candidates that, and Matt, the district chair, that I'm a firm believer that, you know, when I go out and knock on doors, if I have other people's material, I'll hand it to them as well. Because I want the voter to be informed about all of us, right? I want them to pick the one that they feel will best represent them. I think also monetarily. You know, a lot of people ask, why did I get into this race? Because I kind of haven't made it Purdue. I'm an administrator. I do cool things every day. But I also have the resources for myself to really kick off my campaign. And that's what I did this time. And I'm more than happy to support other candidates monetarily to help them with the next steps. So, yeah.
Our campaign in particular has, I believe, the most followers on all the different mediums. So we got X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and so one way I was thinking about contributing was helping with social media, and then also I live in Lafayette, so one thing I would contribute is if the campaign needed someone to be there, you know, Lafayette or Tippecanoe kind of chair of the district to be the person that kind of helps with the Tippecanoe area. Those are two particular things I was thinking.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I do have leadership roles in another county, and I fully intend on helping those candidates first. Not saying I'm not going to help anyone else who wins. I built a very good phone banking network. I'm really good at advertising and using just different mechanisms like that to reach people on YouTube, through ads, things like that, and really maximize the value of every dollar we have. And that's knowledge I'm willing to share and help get those structures set up for the other campaign before I go back to focusing on local campaigns.
So those that know me know that I live in this district. And when I go back to 2018 and Toby Beck winning, I can tell you that I campaigned more for her than she did for herself. I'm not frivolous in saying that. Teresa Brandon is my campaign manager, who was also her campaign manager. And I ran in 2020. I was not planning to run. And Teresa called me and said, hey, I think you're the guy, you're genuine, and I want to run your campaign. Let's get together and do it. And the same thing has transpired now. In between, I was the 4th district chair here. And when I wasn't the chair, I was still in my car traveling the district, county to county. I was participating in their events. I was attending their meetings, not as a candidate, not as a party functionary, as a Democrat who lives here. I'm not just a Democrat, I'm a damn Democrat. And there are plenty of Republicans who will tell you that. So when I tell you I intend to campaign for whomever it is that comes out of this, I mean it. I'm not going to park my car at home. I'm going to be in my car. I'm going to drive. It was not uncommon for me to get a phone call from Toby. Will you go to Logansport? Will you go to Newton County? Will you come to Morgan County? I drove everywhere for her, and I will do that same thing for any of these men here, should they be the ones to come out of the primary. This is what it's going to take. One candidate cannot get it done in this district. It takes multiple voices showing up in multiple locations, speaking the same Democratic language. That's what it's going to take, and that's how far I'm prepared to go to get it done.
Yeah, friends, I'm going to continue to do what I've always been doing for the last 35 years. That's advocating for a better tomorrow. 28 years I've been a precinct committeeman for the Democratic Party in Marion County, Hamilton County, and for the last 14 years in White County. I've never stopped trying to make the world a better place, and I'll continue to do that. And just like all these gentlemen have said, I will be, if for some reason I do not win this primary, I would be more than willing to be the county coordinator for any of these gentlemen behind me. And I'm also chair of the Monticello Spirit Festival. So I'll work with them to bring them up, because it's been a long time since any Democrat candidate came up to the Spirit Festival. It's White County's largest two-day festival, so we need to have a presence there from a Democratic Party standpoint. I'm a musician, I'm a singer-songwriter, friends. I will help raise funds and put on events for these fine people. If I'm not winning myself and doing that for myself, I promise to do that for others. Friends, I'm just going to continue doing what I've been doing for the last 35 plus years, trying to make the world a better place. And I'll support these people behind me and all you fine folks and other candidates in the audience to achieve your goals as well.
Yeah, after the primary, I will publicly endorse whoever comes front the winner. During my job, I travel the district. If they hand me some campaign literature, I can pass it around. I cover the whole state for my job, but I'm in District 4 a lot, so I can catch random people in their, on their normal lives, and make them, remind them that we have an election coming up in November, and that hopefully they can show up to the polls.
Yeah, so that's what it's going to take, and I know that the good staff working in CD4 is going to get all this coordinated and centralized and all that kind of stuff, so we can put them all to work really hard. No worries.
Okay, I got a bit of a tougher question.
Okay.
And it's not going to seem tough at first until you start to think about it, probably. I'm hearing a lot of support for labor and unions and blue-collar workers, and I want to know, would you support / introduce a constitutional amendment that makes having a job that pays enough for all basic needs a constitutional right?
That is kind of a tough question.
So we just recently, in the last few years, passed the ERA. That was written by Senator Birch Bayh, and it took decades to get that passed. So when we talk about a constitutional amendment, it's easy to get up there and go, oh, I'm going to do that. But I guarantee you, many of us will have passed on in this world before that happens. And so we have to be really careful about what we are going to do when we talk about constitutional amendments. And so, guaranteeing someone a living wage is a romantic notion, but we have to make sure that we're not killing small business in the process. And so we can't mandate that Jonathan pay $17.50 an hour. I talked to a small businesswoman in Lafayette. She said, I'm in here 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. I have an assistant that works with me. On Sundays, I come in and I do the books. And she said, by the time I've calculated my hours, Joe, I don't make $17.50 an hour. So we have to understand that our small businesses need our help. And in the process of helping them, we need to make sure we're not setting their business on fire.
Yeah, I don't think it's a constitutional amendment, but I do believe that there should be legislation that we pull people out of poverty, right? That people are making a livable wage based on where they live. And I think that to some degree, I think it's a sliding scale, right? And I say that because as the father of 2 teenagers, right? My son's 15, getting ready to go in the workforce. He doesn't necessarily need to make what an 18-year-old that's out on their own needs to make, right? I'm not saying that some teenagers don't have to do that, because they do help with bills. I know that firsthand, because I have cousins that when they hit 16, they were working and they were helping pay their bills. But at the same time, when you look at corporations like McDonald's, right, and you tell them that the minimum wage is X, or they have to pay X, right? All of a sudden they start going, well, why does a 15-year-old and a 30-year-old have to be making the same? Why does a 16-year-old and a 30-year-old need to be making the same? And the answer is they really don't need to be. And so I think that from a livable wage standpoint, it needs to be a scale looking at the person, looking at their age, looking at their situation, whether they're single parent, married, whatever it may be, to help with that adjustable scale to make it livable. Because quite honestly, one of the I say this because I've talked to managers within McDonald's, right? And one of the things that irritated me, at least at Purdue, is when the McDonald's put in the kiosks. And they said, well, that got rid of having to pay teenagers X number of dollars. I think it's starting out at like $20 an hour. That got rid of them having to pay that, right? And so, but what did that also do? That also hurt the up and coming workforce for teenagers and college students to learn those soft skills that are important in other trades, right? And so, do they have to be making that same amount? I don't believe so, but I think that we can have a scale for that, a bracket system for that. So.
Yeah, so to mirror a little bit what they said, I think the constitutional amendment's a little too hard, and if I was picking one to fight on, it would be abortion access, if I'm really being honest on that. But to touch a little bit on what Paul said about people under 18 not needing to make that kind of money, when my dad died, I worked a part-time job to help us pay bills, and I couldn't imagine having a lower paycheck because I was younger. I think people should be required to pay a livable wage, like $17.25 an hour. I think food's a human right, water's a human right, and a place to stay is a human right. And that's all I'll leave that. Anyone else want to touch on it?
Yeah, I think we all know a constitutional amendment requires 2/3 of both chambers, so that we haven't had a constitutional amendment since I think the 90s. But I do support, and I also support a constitutional amendment for reproductive freedom access as a healthcare issue between a woman and her doctor. I definitely support that. I think that could be possible. But yeah, I'm not sure about a constitutional amendment, but for these other things, but definitely I'm for raising the minimum wage to at least $15, if not $17 immediately. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, single-payer health care for all.
Yeah, sure. I'll say a few words to that. Well, I agree with everybody behind me. Well, not yet, but constitutional amendment. Even though I'm asking for one with the term limits, I know how difficult it's going to be to get it through Congress. But putting more money in people's pockets is really what we need to try to focus on too as well. And if we put in a healthcare system, Medicaid for all, you're going to free up more money for people's pockets. If we're able to open up markets and lower the input costs for goods in this country, that will allow people to have more money in their pocket. If you take a look at my website, DarinPatrick.com, I'm also proposing, though, that we create a whole new tax structure in this country. And I'm proposing a network transfer fee on all the capital that moves through our financial system. And that has the ability to eliminate personal income taxes at the federal level. That's going to put more money in people's pockets. So as we look at trying to come up with policy ideas for a living wage, we should also at the same time be looking at methods to put more money in people's pockets as well.
Yeah, I support the abortion access and the amendment as well. With this question, it's a great question. I'm a union member, work for Teamsters. Our union has really fought for higher wages and everything. I'll support an amendment for that. I know it would be really difficult getting it passed, but it's clearly that trickle-down economics is not working. Corporations are running and hiding from paying a living wage, so if an amendment is needed to actually force them to pay a living wage and guarantee that for all their workers, then I'll support that, and I'll try to get as many representatives to support that as well. And then that might show where they're getting their money from, and the corporations that are bidding on their races might be why they're against that. So then we can hopefully get them out quickly, and then bring in candidates that are grassroots and who actually want to make a difference in Washington instead of just get a paycheck.
See Linda for a second. Do you have a question?
Yes. It's another constitutional amendment question, but one I think in 3 years will have bipartisan support. Any of you in favor of a constitutional amendment that you cannot become president if you're over 75 years old?
everybody up here.
As I mentioned earlier, being a young person in politics, I hear the other side of the coin pretty often, where I'm told I'm too young to do things quite often. I don't know if I want to gatekeep it on age on the higher end. I feel like I'd be doing myself a disservice fighting for where I have as a young person in politics to take that away from an older person in politics.
I'm an older person that wants to take it away.
I understand. I don't know if I necessarily support that as I would term limits and trying to put some other regulations on.
So I would back that. I don't necessarily support a constitutional amendment for that. I think it's just a matter of making sure the public are aware of the mental acuity of the person that's running, right? And pointing out the facts and the figures, right? So
well so far.
right? Well, I don't disagree, but at the same time, I think that limiting someone from running is almost as bad as limiting voters' rights. So, yeah.
And this question comes up quite often, and these guys can affirm that. And I think, looking at things the way they are, I'm not in favor of throwing Bernie Sanders out of the Senate because of his age.
No, I didn't say so.
And I will say, democracy, there's this big movement on people want democracy to be orderly and neat and to make sense. But that's not democracy. Democracy is at times chaotic and frenetic and at times downright frustrating. But any measure that will eliminate the opportunity for an American citizen to participate fully and unfettered in our process is simply oppression. It's not about restricting. Democracy doesn't make sense. It's not neat. It's chaotic. But it's democracy. And my favorite politician, my mentor, has long since passed away. His name was Al Smith. And he had a great quote. And he said, "The only thing that will cure the ails and ills of democracy is more democracy." And he was right when he said it then, and I'm right in repeating it for him today.
Interesting question. I don't have, so my campaign has basically been going around and asking people what's important to them and baking that in, and that's pretty much what it is. My campaign is not really about my personal agenda. I just feel like we've not been represented very well, and our current representative is missing, so my campaign is wanting to have a town hall in every county, and this is something that I would ask what the people of the 4th District think. So I had kind of a defined position on term limits, and I thought that term limits should be 18 years for both houses combined. You can be a senator 3 times, or you can run in the House 9 times, or you can have some sort of combination of that. But the poll, I took a poll, and a lot of people said, the vast majority said 12 years. The vast majority of people said 12 years. So I would do something similar with this question. I would put it out there and see what everybody in the 4th District thinks.
Yeah, no one's never, ever brought that up to me or my campaign in the past, friend. So I've never even taken a position on that. And I will concur with what Drew just said. I would be more than willing to take a poll, like I've done with everything else up to this point, and see what some of the other people in the district feel as well about that. And then I'd be more than willing to get back with you at that point. So.
Yeah, I definitely support that. I think that if we have a limited age to get into politics, 25, 30, and 35 for each position, there should be an age cap. I don't think when I get to that age, I wouldn't want to be running for office, especially on a 4 to 6 year term, whatever it would be. President's 2 4s. I don't want to be retired, so I feel like that if we, put emphasis that, re-incentivize the young people wanting to run for politics instead of, keep electing one, whatever older, that I think an amendment might be needed.
Got another question?
Not really a question, but you mentioned there were other candidates for other races here. I wonder if we could just know who they are.
Absolutely, come on up here. Will Coulter-Young is running for House District 40. Jared Petrie is running for County Council District 3.
So I'm Will Coulter-Young. Like she did, I'm running for District 40, which is Avon, parts of Plainfield. I've lived in Avon now for 15 years with my beautiful wife, Katie. A lot of people, turns out, know her because she is a local physician. I have been in social work for 20 years, so that is really kind of what guides my politics, is that both my wife and I think, really try to present a life of service to our community. We also have 4 mostly great kids, and they're all through public schools, and the challenges that we see within the public schools. There's another big thing for voting, and then I know a few of you have brought this up. My background is primarily in social work and working with people with disabilities, and I feel that that is a population that is 100% overlooked by all facets of government in any way you slice it. People with disabilities make up the largest minority in our country. They are 15% of our country. It is the only minority that any of us could join today. Yet for some reason, we ignore them and their needs, and I think it's time they have a seat at the table, so that's why I'm running.
Here's Jerry. And I got 3 more.
Yeah, there's some other candidates here. I'm Jared Petrie. I'm running for Hendricks County Council, particularly here in Guilford Township, also Liberty, and some other townships out to the west. So the reason why I'm running, I've told this story many times. I started watching the videos for the county council, and it was just time after time, 7-0, right? It's 7-0 Republican currently. I feel that we all deserve a say on the county council. My day-to-day life is looking and poring over numbers. I'm a COO of a local eye care company. So my job is to make things more efficient and use money properly to keep our business running, to make sure that we keep people employed and pay and help them with their benefits. Here in the county, we have structured tax changes coming from the State House. Property taxes are being slashed. Local income taxes are being changed dramatically in the next few years. We need a council that takes into account everyone's voice and is inclusive to everyone in the county. A lot of their decisions are currently being made behind closed doors. I want to bring that transparency and accountability to all of you. One question I like to ask all of you, do you know who your councilman is right now? No. Exactly. There's a reason for that. They want to keep it the good old boy club, okay? I want to get out there and meet everyone in my district. I want to provide that accountability. Sit with you, sit with Republicans, sit with Libertarians, and answer their questions on how we are making their lives better. With these tax changes, we could see cuts. We're not going to be told what those cuts are. They're just going to happen. My goal to get on council is to provide that transparency to you. We have a couple of other candidates here that are really great for Hendricks County. Pass it off to Linda.
So, yeah, who's here? Ted Begason's back here. Ted doesn't want to use the mic.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
That's why I don't use a mic. So I'm running for Liberty Township Board. I'm running for a couple reasons. One is I want people to have a choice. Right now it's always all Republicans running. It is hard to get Democrats to the polls when you know you don't have a choice. I want Democrats and moderates to have a choice. So win or lose, at least you got to make a decision. I also want to kind of lean into my background. So I have a business degree, 2 of them from IU, both a bachelor's and a master's. I ran distribution centers for approximately 30 years, as well as distribution networks. I'm very interested, very knowledgeable about distribution centers run and how they work and how they, in my mind, should be taxed. So in our township, we have a lot of warehouses. I want to see that they're taxed fairly and contribute. Right now, they're all on TIFs, tax abatements, and they don't pay for their fair share. And when I was running distribution centers, I was focused on improving my budgets, continuous improving, and making sure in my contracts I got value for every penny I spent. I want to make sure government's doing the same thing. And right now, they're just all Republicans. It's just a rubber stamp. You get what you get. Our township is actually insolvent right now, partly due to these abatements. We have to provide fire prevention, control, emergency responses for all the warehouses that don't pay any taxes on it. So that's the reason I'm running. I also think that, like I said, multiple reasons. Other reason is if I run and get out there and talk to people, I will be able to get a handful of Democrats to the polls to help vote for these people. And that's important to me because my goal is to elect Democrats as both a Democrat and a PC chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayden. Margaret, would you like to say something? Just say hi. At least say hi.
Yeah, well, I am running for the Guilford Township Board, and what Ted said, I think we haven't had any choices. Everybody's Republican. They're mostly older men, and I'm an older woman, so it gives them a choice. And, you know, I don't have much hope of being elected, but I would certainly do everything I could for Guilford Township if I were.
Margaret Troner. And Nancy Stinson is running for Brownsburg Town Council.
Thank you everyone for coming out. A really big part of my campaign came from my background. I have been, as a small child, my older sister and my mother, we have been homeless twice. So housing is very, very important to me. My mother was a full-time employee of the state of Hawaii school system, and we were homeless. So housing is very, very important to me. Affordable living is very, very important to me. I believe that we can change codes, change ordinances, that we can require better ordinances and better energy sustainability with our buildings in Brownsburg, so that the energy rates that the big boxes are pulling aside won't be hitting our neighbors, our residents, and our friends and family members. I first got into, thought about running when I drove up north on Ronald Reagan and across County Road 400, and I saw a big box warehouse sitting across the street from a home. And we've got now semi-trailers driving down a county road, residential road, to get to that warehouse. That is the only warehouse on that block, on that road. And it shouldn't be there. And it's there because other people in power said, well, that's the county people. That's the township people. And I believe that we need to respect our neighbors, whether they are our Brownsburg neighbors or our Avon neighbors or Pittsboro or our Brown Township neighbors. So that's why I ultimately decided to run.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you all. We're out of time. It's 4 o'clock straight up. Thank you all for coming. I hope you were entertained somewhat and much better informed. I know. Thank you.